slept lightly awakens. She cries. Sophia points to a banana. Marie's thirsty. The sun begins to set. For a moment the room is pink. Soon the snow will be blue. Branches thin out before the bright light. Light glances off the tops of cars parked on ice like glass. Snow describes a pattern on a series of roofs. There's no one around. Louis comes in. Marie says we've got to have Talking Heads dance music. Close to the lower sun, more pink and more red, no clouds, isolation. Something red, a barn, the brightest part of the picture. Red brake lights, Marie says, are stars on the moving cars. The wet street is red. Louis dances with Marie. Sophia's caught by the light that's left, gold eyes, wide brown almonds. Half her face is in darkness, her mouth is partly open. She's about to move her hand toward me. She stops. There's a blank sweetness in her interest. Marie stands behind her in the darkening light, her bright shirt. She grins. Sophia moves forward as if to leap or spring. Marie stiffens and pulls in her lips. It's a pose. Everything is red, even daydreaming, biology, wildlife, Freud. Sophia says yes. Marie gestures wildly with her arm. She has Snoopy on her shirt. She says no. Marie dances, red and blue. She's thoughtful. It's a running dance, stepping like an Indian. The toes of each foot touch the floor before the sole and heel. Her eyes are open wide. She looks suddenly older. It's an arrogant dance. She turns. Her hair flies, hands clasped together, elbows bending out in the balance of the turn. I catch her eye. We eat supper. It's rye bread and cheese. Marie says I want to cut paper. She grabs a candy cane from the bushel of apples. Sophia grabs her cup and handles it well. Marie sees herself in the darkened window. She smiles. She's lost the candy. We have a beer. We talk about a book and a grant. Sophia scratches at the wax on the cheese. Louis makes faces. She eats small pieces of the soft cheese with her fingers. Marie says children have candy. My name is Betsy. It'll get sticky. She calls Sophia baby brother. It's from a book. She says here's a mountain I made. I cut it sharp and thick. Sophia plays with the butter. Marie says Jessica said nar for star, and I'm afraid of the light. Sophia sits on my lap playing with markers. She pulls them from a jar, opens them, and puts them back. She does it repeatedly. Marie falls down. Marie builds a farm from blocks. She puts two cows in a stall. Sophia takes them. Marie says, don't destroy my farm. Sophia walks. They shout. Marie wants Louis to read Curious George. He doesn't want to. She says, try it. What should we do with the bushel of apples? Louis says I'm not a pillow, and Marie does. They read The Little Lamb. He says to her, there's a worm in your shirt, I'll get it out. She says now, say a snail. Sophia tries to draw. She looks like a cat sitting upright, feet straight out wide apart, arm extended to drop a marker in the jar. Marie begins to pull away. Marie bends over, her chin between her knees. Sophia looks supplicating. She leans over, holds up a marker, and stares at it. There is a single sentence, as if on the shade, though we have none. Marie, wearing just a shirt, one knee against her chest, her other leg folded underneath her, is concentrated on the jar. It was only a sentence formed of phrases left by a dream. Louis lies on the bed. He takes off his glasses. He looks exhausted. His hand mentions me. He looks at me. Marie makes a drawing of continuous circles. The floor is strewn with toys. The words are moving off like a line on the outside. It's just opinion, like a vision, royally wide. I sit on the bed, and for a moment I close my eyes. There's a butterfly behind me. This is the introduction to love. She said the snow was a buffalo. I want to take a picture before the yellow willow, but I could be seeing anything, not to despair. Marie says she's pretending to be a baby. She drops her sheet into the toilet. Sophia says something that sounds like, "What's this?" The sentence was more like a meditation. It was nothing. The dreams are so momentary. 2 weeks from now, the whole story would be different, but I can't say it would be a different story. I want to get high. Marie says she has both a penis and a vagina. She puts a ruler between her legs. She says this ruler is a hunt and it goes clap. It's summer and I'm hunting again. When I kiss her goodnight, she says that was a hit kiss. The sentence was, "I don't want to stand around with you if you don't adore me." I read her a story. I'll stand. You lean your arm on my shoulder, full of camaraderie. Then you pull my hand down to feel your penis. It's not like the frost on the window, which reminds me of the walls of the Admiral's hut. I sit with Marie, listening to her be against sleep and then breathing sleep. I look at drawings of a lion and a peacock, a print of a woman, a poster of a tiger, a cardboard cutout of a peach. There's also a lemon and a turkey. I would have told you all those stories if you had been on my shoulder as you were or with me. That was why I wrote them down. Sometimes the story changes in remembering, like the threat of extinction, shrinking forests, quarks, quasars and black holes, dirty snowballs and anti-rocks and space. I long for childhood to recite this introduction to love. It's so long. Sophia's hands are covered with the colors of the markers. She cries when she's dressed. I wash her hands. You sing a song. You change her diaper. We're impatient. She drinks some juice. She says a word repeatedly that we don't understand. It takes so long, and everyone tells me you're better off not eating the food you buy. Each kind of food is tainted. Then why do we husband it? Rosemary calls. She'll come on Sunday. Sophia goes to bed with her blanket and a meekness we all kiss. It's been a mild winter, nothing to it. I have all the time in the world. I've forgotten where and who I am, like fiction, though winter's just beginning. It goes both fast and slow. My idea of it is lost, like a movie scene for the second or third time. Not the winter, everything. I think sometimes no image is allowed but the image of love. Also no other noun. You're standing in the kitchen making coffee. Why is my civilized coat so dark and so little an answer to whether the rhythms of these words are sudden enough, like American, or too much so or moving? We are being quiet, like the introduction to the opening theme at the beginning of the opera's overture. Snow's coherence, nowhere to go. Sophia is not asleep yet. Could it be this whole thing is only about children? It surprises me when Marie still doesn't understand some things. I've so assumed she is like you. When will I begin? Now you know me. The children are Buddhas. I don't know why. I don't even like the idea. I'm lost because I can't stand on my head. I'm writing you a letter. It begins, "Dear Louis, I know nothing is not an amazing thing to say. I do know nothing. I don't know what anything is. I'm lost among everything, which is a green word, and I know what everything is. Loss of meaning, red and green. My compliments to you." Carolyn is next.
I'm going to do something. A yellow word with some brown and green in the sum and a main gray in the thing. Whatever I do, I will have done it knowing nothing. That's all blue-gray, among everything, which is not always the same, like the sum of something. Always has red in it, and so does same, not so same. Red has green in it, and only blue is blue. Orange has red in it. Anyone will tell you that. I'm tired of being brilliant in this way like a tree. So were Mallarmé and Rimbaud, the lover of Verlaine, whose name has all the colors. William Shakespeare has almost all the colors, and so does Bernadette Mayer, but I am a little bit darker. Clark Coolidge is a predominantly tan, and Louis Warsh has many brownish yellows and one primary, There is much charm in it, and it isn't dark at all. Ted and Alice are different. Berrigan like Bernadette, and Alice like the V of Verlaine or like Alive. Each word leaps in this way. I dream I've forgotten all about it. Then I myself leap up. What shall I do? I'm not to do it yet, but I do it already. I cannot not do it. I do it all the time. It's always the same thing. You see, I see it all the time. There's a beauty in description which comes before this. Detail is love. I can't wait to make creation apter to perceive. I want to celebrate. I know the rest of the night will be as devoted to work as love as I'm now resting in this expensive sentence, and in the end I'll spend it fast writing to you anyway, addressing you in a solution or night beginning like a letter, just a few words, more freely seeing everything, more clearly than the rest of life, and love tends to be like windows, facing mostly south, but surrounding us. I'm thinking of you. Rosie?
Oh, thanks. Sorry, I'm having trouble.
I think you're falling
I'm
down
falling
as a
down.
transition I offered you.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought I started at to be existing. Falling down is a transition I offer you. I have a feeling I want to be adored. Is poetry a luxury? I won't defend it. I'll change my tone of voice to share the rest, but I won't end it. At the moment, everything seems to either fall down or stand up. Leaves have fallen, at least in the past. No one gives credence to our lack of strategy and the placement in an indefensible spot of our random-looking house, like the price of food or spices at the store, though I don't defend eating like the truth of pleasure told to one's mother. Lentils, onions, and potatoes are not expensive this year. Carrots aren't either. I can take it or leave it like the paper I write on, lost like the bottle with the note in the sea of what they call oceanic feelings. I'm not romantic at all. I'm always scared of a fire. I'm as familiar as you are with romantic love. Listen, I had this idea before I met you, but after we kissed in the car when I insisted on driving you right to the door, though you said you could easily walk, it was only around the block, to someday become spendthrift of emotion, as any girl or woman. No, I don't mean that. I have this idea now to imitate you, though I do it in secret and attribute simple love to your idea of pleasure. But before that, I had an idea to write a book that would translate the detail of thought from a day to language like a dream transformed to read as it does, everything. A book that would end before it started, in time, to prove the day, like the dream, has everything in it. To do this without remembering, like a dream, inciting, writing continuously for as long as you can, stand up till you fall down like in a story, to show and possess everything we know, because having it all at once is performing a magical service for survival by the use of the mind like memory. To be existing and practicing as a poet. No, I can't say that. In the past of the West, and maybe further, poets told stories. They sang, they wrote epics, they composed for occasions. Inherent in the history of our lives together, since I, all the while wanting to write this book, met you, is a story. I don't know if I can tell it. I'll go as fast as I can on the occasion of this day. Amidst the immodest disasters of our hooligan times, you were born to a composed family in the Bronx in 1944. No, I can't do it. It's too much. Like, this is your life. Remember the time you threw Anne and Kathy out of our house and I threw a bottle and broke the window? Remember the feeling of being hemmed in by the snow? Did I ever tell you about how Nick used to say if he saw 2 glasses on the table, "Who have you been sleeping with?" David used to say if you could tell the story of exactly what is happening, it would be amazing. But I can't do it because remembering is past approval even today. I remember when Sophia was born and she lay on the bed before she made a sound like a warrior sprung from the ground or Athena from the head of Zeus. We did dance, you and I, and go to anybody's parties. We would celebrate. We would be inside this house of not remembering. We would be shocked as innocence remembers where we used to sleep. We would gradually give nights recuperating balance to the day, not ever trusting to have enough time. We would obsessively count kinds of days. One of us would remember another version of a story about the other. We would sleep and dream. We're only inside this or that house. It would have an extra room this time. We would dream the same or a complementary thing. We'd wonder about this isolation. We would eventually begin to dance. With our daughters. We would change to become less lost to the rest we hadn't seen for all love's blinding. We would still lose nothing. It's in the ribbons of her hair.
So when I write of love, I write of binding referendums, bankruptcy intent, industrials, utilities and sales, the petitions of a citizens group, transportation, births, corrections, the downtown mall, the toy fund, the predictions of meteorologists, hearing aid discounts, oil price increases, ice fishing, diplomatic ties with China, an exploding oil depot in Rhodesia, a controversial nuclear physicist, South Africa's resources of chrome and Russia's stores of platinum and tin, intercontinental ballistic missiles, Mexican oil, student assemblies, mobile homes uprooted by strong winds, book sales, Chris Everett's engagement, the uses of trees on the banks of reservoirs, the victory of the Cleveland Cavaliers, and how the Sabres beat the Flames. I read of artists, auto technicians, babysitters, bookkeepers, childcare workers, companions, conference managers, cooks, dental assistants, and receptionists. Designers, electricians, English teachers, hairdressers, maintenance men and women, medical secretaries, mold makers, night clerks, nurses, oil burners, service technicians, program directors, programmer trainees, public health nurses, registered nurses, secretaries, ski salesmen and saleswomen, substitute teachers, waitresses and waiters. I write of bribery and surgery, changes in the sentencing of criminals, a plan to change garbage to industrial steam, the Pope's speech about his first trip, jet hijackings, price rises, a recession, the findings of the House Assassinations Committee, a high-level mission to Taipei, Taiwan, new federal oil industry regulations, freed North Korean political prisoners, the Strategic Arms Limitation Treaty, the tree warden, the windstorm, the ice, a selectmen's meeting, disco dancers, a recipe for pineapple coffee wreath, a consultant to a toy manufacturer, Victorian dollhouses, the art of wood carvers, the extradition of a former FBI spy, a Colombian novelist's human rights group, a singing fairy, red and silver foxes, drugs to lower the level of cholesterol, discrepancies in reports of a mid-air crash. Marriages, inquiries, public notices, the financial default of the city of Cleveland, inflation, the OTB simulcast bid, the defeat of the Knicks by the Hawks, Army allegedly breaking recruiting rules, the Nets loss to the Rockets, King's arrest for drunk driving and cocaine. Rick Barry's outburst of anger at the fans. Minimum wages, apartheid, the United Nations, inflation, widespread default on bank loans, the fight at the meeting of the Women's Bank, the gasoline tax plan, dictaphone stock gains, the merger of Continental Phone with Executone, Napoleons, eclairs, tarts and torts, reborn Christians, women in the JCs, the Council on Aging, protesting teachers, a nuclear power plant, high school violence, the inventor earmuffs, free ski lessons, speeding, drunken driving and accidental deaths, carolers, a graphics firm, window paintings, air pollution emission, foreclosures, a report of missing gold, gangs, crashes, frauds, bombs buildings, the crisis in Iran, information from the surface of Venus, a bus hit by a train, remade movies, a papal message censored in Poland, the murder of a Basque militant leader, collages, operas, stages, the soft shoe, romantic films, the writers of Superman, Clint Eastwood with a monkey, bad plots, old jazz musicians, Russian body mime, 2 Soviet films, expensive restaurants, RKO, MGM, progressive rock experimentation, Japanese architecture, chamber music, auctions, Andy Warhol and Red Grooms, a lost anarchist novelist, contract bridge, biographies, the Bible, documentaries, cosmology and the Balinese dance, Bernadette.
I write this love as all transition, as if I'm in instinctual flight, a small ladybug with only 2 black dots on its back, climbs like a blind turtle on my pen and begins to drink ink in the light of tradition. We're allowed to crowd love in like a significant myth, resting still on paper. I remember being bitten by a spider. It was like feeling what they call the life of the mind, stinging my thigh like Dante. This guilty beetle is a frightening thing when it shows its wings and leaps like the story of a woman who once in this house said the world was like a madhouse, cold winds blowing, and life looks like some malignant disease viewed from the heights of reason, which I don't believe in. I know the place, taken by tradition, is like superstition, and even what they call the literary leaves less for love. I know the world is straight ice. I know backwards the grief of life like chance, if I can say that. I can say easily, I know you, like the progression from memory to what they call freedom or reason. Though it's not reason at all. It's an ideal like anarchism, though it's not an ideal. It's a kind of time that has flown away from causes, or gotten loose from them, pried loose, or used them up, gotten away. No one knows why nothing happens. There is no reason, there's no dream. It's not inherited, like peace, but it's not peace. There's no beginning, like religion, not God. It's more like middle age or humor without elucidation, like greeting card verse. This love is a recognized occasion. I know you like I know my times, as if I were God and gave you birth, if I can say that. I can say I am Ra, who drew from himself to give birth to Geb and Nut, Isis and Osiris, though it isn't decorous today to say this. Instead, I say, you are the resource for my sense of decorum, knowing you as Ra knew the great of magic, his imaginary wife. And without recourse to love, men and women are like tears. I would lose my memory. I would sleep 12 hours. I would wake up and get into my boat with my scribe. I would study the 12 hours of the day, spending an hour in each. I would have a secret name. I would rush upon the guilty without pity, till the goddess of my eye and her vengeance overwhelmed my own rage. As you and I take turns, in love's anger, like the royal children, born every morning to die that night. I know you speak and are as suddenly forgiven. It's the consequence of love's having no cause. Then we wonder what we can say. I can say, I turn formally to love and spend the day. To you to form the night as what I know. An image of love allows what I can't say. Sun's lost in the window and love is below. Love is the same and does not keep that name. I keep that name and I am not the same. A shadow of ice exchanges the color of light. Love's figure to begin the absent night. We've got Sarah.
In Yucatan, we write all night. In the literal love and experimental ways, I've met a lot of people who think I should write novels. I wonder what I'll look like when I'm old. We put the food away. I lie down and think how we still need diapers and beer. I begin to dream and I'm an undertaker. There are numerous funerals. A wriggler is the larva of a mosquito. There's a person who cannot write. A point on a map or diagram. A symbol for a kiss or kisses in letters. The Roman numeral 10. It's Xmas again. 2 black undertakers I see close up. Wait for me to follow them like Christ. A person or thing unrevealed. Xenon, a sign of multiplication. An abscissa. I see Rita. I see all the young poets in a room with me. They're drinking all the beer. There's only apple juice left. Gerard's gotten fat. I don't undertake to understand it. Then I meet Ed. He says he had the same dream as I did. He's seen the same undertakers. X marks the spot. This morning, Louis dreamed he was going to San Francisco, California, on a train all alone. I dream I'm on a train. That's not on its tracks. It's askew. I drop a burning cigarette ash on the steps of an indoor fire escape. And when I say to stamp it out, the whole escape flies away from the building it's attached to. I'd better call Mr. Hatch and get it all fixed. I met a woman who says, "Do you want some feedback on your meal?" I've got stockings on like the one Ray gave me. She hoped I wouldn't mind that they were hers. They get stuck in some machine which is functioning under the table. Then another woman gets me some other ones, real inflatable nylon stockings from the People's Republic of China. Like the new soy sauce we bought, Superior Soy, I'm a boy again. I follow 2 men into the subway. It's the undertakers. I shout to them to wait for me. Then I remember. One of them is just an ember. He's a man who's already dead. Like the need to know what's going on in the world. But not so much you forget where you are, like a fiction or religion or a wholesale agitator. I wake up less rested than relieved. I'll never have to undertake to go through that again. I hate dates and their significance in death's memories. Arbitrary yearly meetings with pre-Xmas dreams in life.
I call up Peggy. It's her birthday, and she's had a bad dream. She's depressed about the holidays and can't remember anything. We have been enlivening talk about craving sleep and the clues in our dreams full of mothers and fathers. We feel better. We'll get together for the new year up here. What is reading and writing? I have to go to the cold grocery store. It's an icy night. The nicest man in town says, "Have a nice weekend." At the package store, young Mr. Wheeler is talking to a woman who says, "I'm past the childbearing age." Then she says, "Just like my washing machine." She looked young to me and not like a machine. I see one of the hairdressers getting into his American sports car. He says, "Getting ready for the holidays?" Delucidatorily, I say, "I see what you mean." I slip on the ice. Oh, sorry. Ice on the trees is lit by streetlights. There's no moon yet. I slip because I'm racing. By now for fear. Will I ever get home? What is reading and writing? This pledge to get to the desk which opens. It's a piece of wood like a boat, carved and cut and hinged and screwed, to hold up the weight of my hands and arms, the typewriter and the beer. I have a mirror. I'm between two windows, which makes it so cold. I have to wear a down vest when I write. I'm lucky to have one. Lottie?
Wagner felt they had to wear satin dressing gowns in order to compose. I am ashamed that obsesses me, but that is just the usual. The obsessiveness is something I won at poker, where I'm remembering what's been played, so I can play my hands and know when ever dies. How preoccupying. Is the wish to include all or to leave all out? Some say either wish is against the poem or art. I'm asking, is it an insane wish to be besieged, beset with, to have to sit with, to be harassed, obsessed, to be possessed or ruled by? I'm confused by fear, perfection, and love. This poem, order, mourning, vigilance, and beer, and cigarettes and directness, or clarity, words, truth, or writing, or the sublime, every day. These apologies are what they call under control. I've no respect for their repetitious logic, and though I'm obsessed with keeping track of where you are in the house or out of it, I rarely clean it thoroughly. Having gotten older, I'm obsessed with how I look, but I don't pay attention to it either. The structure of the past has always given me the feeling that as long as things are okay, there's a rhythm to that, which chances are won't be broken. But once something awful happens, then you're in for it, as it doesn't fit. That's why I like recovering, and I'm always doing it. But when I think each time I write a line, I know someone I know won't approve of it. I begin to wonder about my mother. My mother thought it was opals that brought bad luck. Many people then used to say, people die in trees. My mother said, even if you try to get rid of an opal, it will bring you trouble. Lucky Chaucer said, I have great wonder, be this light, how I can live. I was going to tell you about the garbage, and how taking it down to the yard ought to be a lucky pleasure, at least compared to any other place I've taken garbage down to. But like recovering from an illness or grief, and rejoicing for a while in a new ordinary way of being, and then forgetting you were ever sick or aggrieved. Pleasure without any change becomes a chore, though in some old head division of labor, to change the subject, Lewis has become so good at dealing with it. I mean the garbage. And I do cook the dinners, but what I meant to say was, just the way it's impressive and new to visit friends who surprise you by being attentive and fastidious, to one thing and not another, and I wish then to imitate them for a while, because it seems there might be something to it. So I wish I was more like the young woman the paper said today was confused. She hijacked a plane in an attempt to free the same prisoner her mother was killed trying to free in another hijacking. I guess I'm already a little like her. The paper said the prisoner was her mother's lover, and he'd convinced the girl he was her father, though she had no way of knowing. In the hijacking, she became exhausted and lost her stubborn will to keep the passenger prisoners on the plane. And when she was arrested in what the papers called her alleged attempt, she was alone. And there's a picture of the girl in the arms of the police before the cold Illinois photographers. She put a coat over her head. No, it's inevitable. She'll go to prison, but for a plea. That a person as young as she, with all the confusion in her life, had no idea what she was doing. So animistically. I wonder sometimes if what I've got tied to my back is more like her harmless railroad flares than this anger of the explosion of real dynamite which might endanger others, the innocent others who are always standing around. What in fact are they doing? Aren't they thinking enough not to be in the vicinity of a misled killer to be, like you or me? What does it look like? Lately, Louis and I have been running out of matches. In Massachusetts, it's legal to buy strike anywheres. I'm exhausted as the girl who's not a myth. I ask Louis for the matches and he says he ate them. Like a hungry Iranian demonstrator on the Tehran streets, shouting, "Death to the Shah."
David once convinced me I thought I had eaten my parents. To add insult to injury is a phrase that has always interested me, so I might say. When my mother got sick with the disease from which she died, she said, it was probably all our fault, because in what they call in court, our attempt to love, we had in fact punched her. I read some old writer who says to learn about life, you have to be in court or in camp. This is what obsessions are. For anyone who doesn't already know what it means, when you wash your hands, you still have yet to wash what you touched. While you are beginning to wash them, and in the end, there's no end but forgetting, or to die in a frenzy of unremitting love, or to take heroin, or keep a stash of it for dying, like the Antarctic explorers, or like double agents in movies, or even plain soldiers, or emotions jaded hijackers. Though freezing to death is said to be euphoric, and Scott wrote 12 letters while he died at the pole, but not like the people in Guyana, who died of cyanide and Kool-Aid in bubonic plague type contortions on the bodies of their children. Wait, I thought I was going to talk about reading and writing, and not the desire to renew love to life, in proportion to obsession by endless fucking. To reveal, in Yucktown, we write all night. Not that it's natural or even known about, just to fill up some space as existence is generous and frenzied, and to light in a certain spot outside. To write like a bird migrating or returning, this town is now a feeding station, as it once was just a tavern or an inn, on the road between two places more well known. Now the space is filled. What of overpopulation? We don't pretend to die, but we write invisibly, hoarding our time and cherishing our family. We don't even wait to be famous, but we do hope to survive. We meet in the hallway, which becomes the road between the rooms in which we write. We publish books and a magazine, United Artists. We sell our letters, we apply for grants. Lewis's parents send us $150 every month, which is enough for food. Writing is a need, and when there's a pleasure living together on the schedules of babies in the country's luxury, our lives are circumscribed. We lack distractions. At random, we have visitors, usually all at once. Some people don't seem to like the children, and when they come to see us, they ignore them, as if the sentient children were as unintentional as our presence in ironic New England. Some say this place is too pretty or too clean, not Marxist or Leninist or Maoist enough. Why live anywhere? Some people must live somewhere, or cannot or do not want to move. Everywhere there is has everything there is to look at. Some are even afraid to move. I understand that. Perhaps I've thought a bit too much about it. It's San Francisco, I always thought was too pretty. But not these small, cold hills. Often someone walks in the door, and the first thing they say is, "Why do you live here? Among these tight-ass Yankees in the cold?" I say, "It's best. It's me who does." I'm just as closed-mouthed, secretive, and stodgy as any Yankee in my way. I love to work and pay the hideous price of seeking infinite knowledge in this orphaned place with its changing light, pure air, temperate extremes of weather's drama, beauty of the self-denial hills and separate trees, marshes, bogs, swamps, rocks, caves, and small towns, scenes of glacial happenings, still part of the world. Everywhere a somewhat like expression as far as I can see, though I'm not the type who minds the cold. And in the past, I've been told I'm just as cold and in winter dark and unchanging as these coldly charming hills, whose visages alarmed Nathaniel Hawthorne, a man, if we endeavor to speak thus, as nervous as I. Jesus. Yeah.
I don't mind the beauty of it all, some say. The life we have is wrong because we've been lucky and don't work in a factory or at a CETA job, but it's petty to spend poetry complaining, unless I were a pilgrim in the Canterbury Tales. And then I don't say anything. So just because we're married, don't dismiss us. Don't forget to include us in all the gay anthologies as a family. We are still crazy and repentant and rushing the gorgeous past as the ice creeps into the house. If again I've said too much, maybe the rest is as if it were simple, but I can't defend our heart's tongue and cheek, as if they were recalcitrant to love, as we'd already begun to look alike. We always were. As we've become alternating in our habits, at once rushing to be loved ridiculously freely, at once hiding the place of love in the closet, the doors of which are never closed, so the children call it the airport. As coincidences, simple complications, decorum, and the order of meetings astound us more up or over there or over here. Is all this too abstract, just to clear some space as if in the kitchen and not really clean? Is loving to be outside the same as love just walking and inheriting? Plain movement from relative time, which is accurate, unlike volume and distance. For measuring even love, the way something in the distance stays the same, and you might say, those clouds are chasing me. It might not prevent me from ceasing to love only you. Love presents my knowing. Some loves are overwhelming, like the unknown but fashionable perfection of an atomic clock. I say there is nothing, even a small town with nothing in it and nobody to talk to stop me loving you, a song. I am bewildered then, by death. We all read all about it like fear, as if every day we make sure, like another, to put in time being crazy for fear. We will not ever die. We won't lose our touch for death. And every time I think I've got it down, I learn I'm not for death at all. I'm depressed like a plant, by midwinter's intransigence as if it were a baby, without any enlightening daring or soft skin. I know the purpose of human stubbornness because I know the person. But what's this unemotional, drastic nature of the place? The only answer I can think of is I know. I didn't have to learn to love you. So I only see the headless winter as a spectacular or boring thing. Not like saying, fuck you and rage. The fallen tree, no analogy to age or disease, but all as explicit surprise, and if you knew all about it, you'd find in your emotion to excite plain seeing. You had probably left out the most important part, mistaking the sights for an audience. Tristan.
I think I know the trees. One time.
Almost the top of the page.
Second paragraph.
I think I know the trees will never love me, and we're here as accidentally to eat, sleep, and work in the ordinary way. To be astonished by will as time is slow to be, amazed by speed and pleasure, frantic natures as fast and reactionary as writing in lines to learn. What I once began to do and then left off, like a baby's talent for walking at birth. I still try to go too fast, as if the press of everything were identical. I type up a poem and head for home, clear letters on an androgynous paper. I sit at the family table where it's a struggle to create both staminate and pistolate in the same inflorescence of cluster. I feel a great impatience. All the people in my family have sensuous lips. I say like a man or woman who does head home. With all that dirt under my nails, I know nothing but the lassitude of love. Half an hour after sunset, all the windows are frozen shut, like psychology. I have to hammer the sides with my fists to get them to open. Often I wonder if I think the same things I thought as a child. When I didn't know the future of a form, now I look different. For a woman to look different is still more difficult, though each moving being who changes thinks, than for the man of the tribe. A tribe is one of three, from the Latin into which the Romans were originally divided. Latin, Sabine, Etruscan, and the tribe together with family, slaves, and adopted strangers meant the recognized community plus a form of the future to become, like the Philae of ancient Greece, or the 12 divisions of the Israelites, or any group of people or animals or plants with some of the same habits and ideas, like the futures of the women who may think they've lost their charms, or the men who think they've changed beyond recognition, like a community or a person who thinks, if only we could all get some sleep like Chaucer, or a Latin Sabine, or Etruscan mother, who didn't have the time, chance, education, or notion to write some poetry so I could know what she thought about things. There are some who did anyway. There's Anne Bradstreet. There's Cy Wenke, Elizabeth Barrett Browning, Alice Nolte and me, Adrienne Rich, Sylvia Plath, Anne Sexton, Eleanor Wiley, Louis Bogan, Denise Levertov. There's Barbara Guest, H.D., and Harriet Beecher Stowe, Maureen Owen, Nikki Giovanni, Diane DePauw, Marasaki Shibuk, Fanny Howe and Susan Howe, Muriel Rukeyser, Nina Lloyd, Lauren Redeker, Gwendolyn Brooks, Marina Savetsya, and Anna Akhmatova. There's Rebecca Wright. And the saints. I read in the papers that women live longer because they don't do all of this. And as they begin to become more like men in all these ways, die equally soon. I forgot to mention George Sand, as if death were not life, and I was dressed as a man, racing around as a woman among a race of women, too relegated before to birth like Mary Shelley, in a division of labor into whatever it was or is, to write a secret history, for desire to be like food, touching history with desire, for history to be like food, on the table in the light of the window. It's shared. There are some things we cannot say. No, I can't say that. The awful presence of the obvious, abdicated time, never relents in its demand to speak all at once. Because but for that, there's the chance the rest of what's begun to be lost might be lost. Like putting all one's bushels in an apple forever. Like the story changed or forgotten to make. A priestly transformation in all the lives of the people and in their words. Like an ordinance imposed in proud moments by the tellers of tales or by politicians to a purpose. This present future, bold as it is an inaccessible time where idiosyncratic Western women, most from what they call the privileged classes, but not only those, are beginning to write enough so that everyone can find a chair in heaven. I say he or she, even in history, probably never knew before. Who's crying? It's a parliament of women. I won't mention the prices of spices because talents are equal to inheritance and love following the rules. But still the stunning stone of a girl is less carved. There's no way around it. Not that life is any wilder. Let loose from a woman than from a man. We're all descendants of sexes as in varying clothing. Nor is the admonition of form ever less than loving constrictions of the great ones, of any kind of health, class, or time. After all, writing, and the genius of poetry only holds up half the sky, like a woman born to social occasion, become a battle or a war for change, like Freud or Sappho. You sent me a meal once in this pot I still have, where in among that I can only be as great as Shakespeare, or Milton, or Chaucer, or Dante, or any of the others I have the pleasure of knowing all about. But the meal I mentioned, which had only been pot roast with gravy and potatoes, not less remembered, is worshipped and defended wherever I see men in trees. And I want to be a worker in trees. Winter long I would paint the city if I see a cityscape. And from what I saw, I'd even want to be involved in photorealist painting, airbrush painting, pattern painting, and proposals for sculptures, performances, photos and texts, color field painting, new image painting, silkscreen collage and watercolors, monoprints, landscapes, lithographs, etchings, body art, silver point, pop art, nudes, California funk art, frescoes, floor sculpture, all kinds of wall pieces and shaped canvases, outdoor projects, snow sculptures and still lifes, architectural drawings and post-minimalist sculpture, sky sculpture, all kinds of oil and figure painting, wood block prints, murals, bronzes, and monuments, tapestries, mobiles, seascapes, poster art and films, minimal painting, precisionist painting, formalist painting, new realist painting, minimal sculpture, abstract expressionism, even video art, narrative art, paper reliefs and aqua tints, flower painting, wood carvings, sketches and calligraphy, egg tempera paintings, graffiti, and all of photography, process art, grid paintings, stripe paintings, light art, happenings, kinetic sculpture, environmental sculpture and pastels, ceramics, multimedia presentations, portraits, social realism, and collages. I would even discover roughly adrenaline, air conditioning, a satellite of Pluto, supermassive objects in the center of galaxies, the airplane, the jet propulsion airplane, helicopters, mass spectrography of stable isotopes, penicillin, insulin, and its production by bacteria, antimatter, the depths that fish inhabit, the Polaroid land camera, an all-electronic numerical integrator and calculator, the digital computer, cloning, the cultivation of truffles, the conditions reflex, the cyclotron, the neo lamp, deuterium, Celanese fibers, polyesters, and polyamides, the double helical nature of DNA, the tungsten filament, the equivalence of mass and energy, the mercury vapor lamp, nylon, heat death, recombinant DNA techniques, the laser, the stored program computer concept, test tube babies, antiviral drugs, restriction enzymes, paper and the loom, neutron-induced radiation, nuclear fission, the ballpoint, cosmetics, the crossbow, a drop in the sun's temperature, the first gamma ray spectral line, the rings of Uranus, sulfur ions around Jupiter, a mouse with a human chromosome, a mouse derived from 6 parents, radar, nuclear reactors, the vacuum electron tube, sound motion pictures, protons, positrons, polio vaccine, gunpowder, and the forked cloud, the rotary internal combustion engine, the gyrocompass, intelligence testing, natural satellites of asteroids, a cure for travelers' diarrhea, the automatic rifle, psychoanalysis, the special and general theories of relativity, alpha and beta particle radiation, gamma radiation, vitamins, color film with 3 emulsion layers, electron microscopes, geometry, synthetic plastic, the polymerization of process, quantum theory, the Wassermann test, the flush toilet, solar weather links, a pocket-sized three-dimensional camera, sulfa drugs, military tanks, tractors, transistors, TVs, the uncertainty principle, the Van Allen radiation belt, zero, the wheel, Lucifer yellow, charm quarks and supernova, an end to locust plagues, the reason for the East Coast booms, the synthesis of the trans-uranic elements including fermium, americium, einsteinium, curium, berkelium, and californium, animal prescience of earthquakes, gravity waves, antiprotons, the nature of schizophrenia, and the first known noon marker of the summer solstice.
I would close my red eyes like copper and watch you by the atomic clock. To have the luxury to love, at least in theory, indivisibly for a time in the sweetest exchanges, as if the world were not enraged. You go out for cigarettes, as if love is not the food of those of us satisfied enough to write to lend urgency, pleasure, to sing, to celebrate, to inspire, to reveal. You put on your forgotten shoes and coat in an image and say you will be right back. While you're out, love is stored in interset house, this cave of it. We go too fast, switched from the speed of variegated love, writers married and fallen in with family, though it's more exhausting to love, to write, than to pursue what might have been described about the past of being fast. Sometimes we feel like fools, lunatics, paranoid hermits having manic flights with nothing coming of it. No invitation to cocktails or tea with the whole American Indian nation. No requests to write a column for the Post. No demands for words, for occasions, for public celebrations, or for mourning, for invocations, for grace, for change. But each night, craving any sweet joy, we still hope to live a long time. Hurry, you say, and we love to hurry, but not to speed up the night, to be rushed, to be kissed, to be irrationally married to words, and to produce wild, not grown up yet, perfection, a genius not as fast as the speed of the past again, where everyone is thought to be another to this day, like a letter we never forgot about. We run from place to place to answer it. Love is coveted. We have no need of the commandments, alone in the house among the secrets. We still work to tell. Without pause, there is a purpose. Anyone does who is knowing all about it. How far can I go with it, getting away with it before I die the fool? And if I die, I will. I have missed something. I always the same, though now I'm 2 or even 4. I wish to be more. I don't know why. I know I don't like to buy Xmas presents, but if I had some money today, I'd buy love's surprises and presents and present them to people on my list. They are Liz, Ray, Harry, Sophie, and Marie, and all the Warshes, Rosemary Mayer, Margaret DeCourcy, Grace Murphy, Alice Notley, Ted and Anselm and Edmund Berrigan, Ray Field Sawyer, Lynn O'Hare, and Moses and Bill Berkson, Bill Beverly, Marnie and Arden Corbett, Simon Shuckett, Clark, Celia and Susan Coolidge, Paul and Nancy Metcalf, Paul and Eileen Callahan, Bill Kushner, Charlotte Carter, Bob and Ollie Rosenthal, Rachel Kraut, John Anselm, Ed Friedman, Ken Elmsley, Susan Noel, Meg Simon, Joe Brainerd, Rudy Burkhart, Ed and Tom Bowes and Harris and Charlie Vermont, whose 33rd birthday it is, and many other people I've seen and known. Now Lewis has come home. I thought I was going to write a story of my theories tonight, not this desirous essay on art and home, this alarming dictionary of reformist love. It is safe to say that knowing my notebook, the moon is coming up. I have something to do with that. Tonight, the Shah of Iran is not watching his 40-inch TV, and what might be the dread implications of overwhelming power has become a confusion of the magic wishes of everyone and the titillating knowledge of almost everything lost before the complicated stories of dreams. Where the moment is supreme to join with the past, found in awakening to love of a rearranging this world, at best at random translated by the eyes of ice to detail of truth. Something is discovered. We wait to see what happens. We hope it's not a war or suffering, and that the women will shake off the veil in this myriad future of our still revolutionary, magnificent dreams or lust for surprise benefiting us like the sun, like the supplicating weather we fear may suddenly change from what it is to another ice age, but not before. The climate warms undetectably, forcing us all to move to the moon. Then we gather supplies in airtight containers, force ideas from dreams to develop the craft of sleep, keep in touch of what's happening, wonder at nature's emergencies, extreme heat, cold and inaccessible new beauty, births, unusual time, exposures of earth, intercourse, sex, copulation, fucking. I think I wrote this in the dark. There's a light in my eyes afterwards, by chance, like a family, like the moon shines in my one of 9 in the house with its green white town, pinkish light, rich and ultraviolet and acetate rays. And with my eyes, I'm reading a paper on us fucking and mercury vapor. I found I was finding another position for the diagram, like the curtain, like the moon's oval pebbles under the exciting microscope of the Western world. I speak out loud against it. Other lights in the town might be broken by accident or widespread vandalism, but they're too high and look like Christ on the cross with his hands of an eyes fluorescent fish, like a talent unspoiled and queer. To be me is to be queer, sleep after death. It's modestly deriving what from the eyes of the immodest living is offered at the cost of the ruinous leaving. Well, I have to close them. This paid incandescent light is like the vigil of a virgin, last to tell before my eyes. I'll end. From dreams I made sentences. Then what I've seen today, the past of afternoons of stories like memories to scene as a plain introduction to modes of love and reason. Then to end, I guess, with love, a method to this winter season. Now I've said this love, it's all I can remember of Midwinter Day, the 22nd of December. Welcome, sun, at last with this nice softer light that takes the bite from winter weather and weaves the random cloth of life together and drives away the long black night. Next year we'll read the blurbs.